This is 150 bucks that YouTube just paid me. Now I'm going to see if I can turn this into something with an engine and wheels. Should be fun. To help us along the way, I do have something that we can maybe use as a bargaining chip. We picked up this motor a while back in a trade. We had an old 4-speed transmission sitting in the garage from a project that never actually ended up happening. Put it up on Marketplace, somebody offered to trade this thing for it. I was like, well, an engine's better than a transmission, I guess. I have no idea if it runs. Never even really tried to start it at all. I could maybe try and sell it how it is, but I think I might take a little bit of that YouTube money and get a gas tank for this thing and see if we can get it running, because I feel like it's going to be worth quite a bit more if it runs. So I think that's our next step. We'll get this thing hopefully running and see what we can turn this into. What do we got here? Oh, this is the emergency pull start in case the pull starter breaks. Appears to have all the oil. Probably be a good idea for me to do some Googling on this thing. I'm not even entirely sure how old it is. I think it's the early 90s, maybe even late 80s. We've got our 2 spark plugs here. I think I'll pop those off, see if there's anything glaringly wrong, like metal fragments or I don't know, something in there, but let's go ahead and get those popped off. A little dark, a little black and sooty. Alright, let's see what the other one looks like. This one's just as black and sooty and oily. Might be worth throwing some new ones in there. It's obviously not going to have any compression right now with the spark plugs taken out. I just wanted to feel it, I guess. I'm going to go try and scrounge up some replacement spark plugs. I mean, these ones are a little gross looking, so pop some fresh ones in there. Tomorrow the gas tank's going to show up. I've got some gas. We'll put some gas in the gas tank, and I think we'll just pop new spark plugs in, plug the gas tank in, and give her a rip, see what happens. So Napa has these in stock. They're only like $4 or $5 a piece, so we'll grab a couple of those. Oh, it's a nice day. I think I might drive the Bug. It's hot in here. Turn on the AC. That was less than cool. My glasses are hot. Let's go. Didn't have the NGKs, but these ones apparently are parts equipment. I don't know what the fork spec is, so I'm gonna go ahead and go with the old Just Snug. That's always worked well enough for lawn mowers, go-karts, anything else. This is the old one-handed torque wrench. Once it's hard to do, probably good. Well, that was easy enough. Now it's just time to wait for the old Bezos mobile to drop off the gas tank. Right on. I actually couldn't find any owner's manuals, believe it or not, to download or anything from 1988. So I'm just gonna roughly go off of the instructions here, and we'll just see how we do. There we go. Well, that's cool. It is tremendously stinky in here now. I need to like blow all this smoke out of here. But it started really fast, but that is a lot of smoke. Now, the plugs were pretty wet with oil. Hopefully that's not oil just shoving past the rings. Maybe it's just from sitting, I don't know. But I'm gonna try and get it fired up again and see if that smoke clears up. The other thing is, listening back to that footage, it sounded a little rattly. Like I don't have a ton of experience with boat motors, but it sounded maybe a little rod knocky. I don't know. We'll see. It could be entirely possible that somebody traded this thing knowing it needed a rebuild and just wanted to get it off their hands. Hopefully not, though. Now that it's warmed up, it doesn't want to start without the starting fluid, and then it feels like it's just burning off the starting fluid because eventually it just hard dies and shuts off. So it's acting like it's not getting fuel anymore, which to me screams carburetor something. I might try and dive deep, see what it takes to rebuild one of these carburetors, or just take it apart and clean it. It's got kind of an automatic choke setup on it. It's a little bit more complicated than like your standard lawnmower carb or something, but I don't know. It does kind of run, which is good. It's not smoking so bad anymore. Well, it's running now. I cracked the drain bolt on the carburetor, and a bunch of yellow gas poured out. So I tightened that back up, popped the fuel line off the top of the carb, and popped the fuel line off of, there's like a little recirculation thing. Anyway, popped the fuel lines off, primed the bulb, and it was kind of spitting all that old yellow gas out. And I just did that until it turned clear. Cracked the drain valve on the bulb again, and it started flowing clear. Put it back on there,
about 5 pulls and then crack the throttle about halfway, the same way it suggests doing on the handle there. 2 more pulls and it fired right up. So I'm just gonna let it sit and see how long it runs without me helping it. But that's a good sign. I think it just had some really nasty gas in there and it did not want to run on that gas. So if I manage to get this thing going without actually having to take the whole carb apart, I'm gonna be stoked. You'll notice it'll start to stumble. If I give the bulb a squeeze, it comes back to life. So I think either I need more gas in the tank for it to be siphoning properly. I know I have the vent open on the tank, so it should be siphoning as it's supposed to, but maybe it needs more gas. Here it goes, starts to stumble. Give it a little squeeze. Comes back. So I think there's a bulb issue or tank issue, or it just needs more fuel in here. So I'll do some research on that. But as of now, it seems pretty happy.
I'm pretty happy with the results of today. This thing is a little oily, but it runs. And I think the issue I was having there with the primer bulb, hopefully that audio turned out, but the motor would start to die down, and if I squeezed the primer bulb on the tank, it would fill up. My guess is either I need more fuel in the tank for it to siphon properly, or there's an air leak in the connections. It was the cheapest gas tank I could find on Amazon, so it wouldn't surprise me if those connections don't seal very well. But it at least sealed well enough for me to let it run for like 5 minutes. I just had to squeeze the bulb every once in a while to prime the fuel back up. But dude, this thing runs. So I need to drain this thing. It's a little trapped the way I have it stuck in here because I had to slide the bucket up like this. But I can get a lot of this water out just using this little hose. And no, I don't have to suck my mouth on it. You just gotta do a little dunk and then tip one end out. Oh, gotta try it again. There it is. There you go. Science. Okay, so the whole time this thing's been sitting in the garage, it's been dripping a little bit of oil down here off this lower unit. See, I'm learning. I'm learning about these things. And as you can see now, after running it finally in the tub of water, I got oil dripping out. And if you look here, this oil is mixed with water. So there's water getting in here, which means, I mean, it seems pretty obvious. This prop seal is leaking. There's also several different seals inside this lower unit that potentially could leak, and judging by the amount of oil that's, and gear oil that looks like it's all over the bottom of this lower unit here, those are all leaking too. Unfortunately, Yamaha discontinued all the gaskets for this thing, but there's companies that make new ones. Found a kit that has all the gaskets and seals for like 32 bucks on eBay. So I ordered that. That's not going to be here for probably 4 or 5 days, which sucks. For the time being, I can probably get this lower unit off. I'm a little bit concerned about stripping it down right now because I tend to forget things and I don't want to forget where everything goes, but it actually doesn't seem all that complicated. I'm at least slightly handy enough to hopefully figure this out. So while we're waiting for the parts to show up for the boat motor, I just wanted to say thank you guys. We've got a lot of new followers here from that go-kart video. Tremendous. We more than doubled our subscribers off of that video. I've got a lot more project ideas. I actually have a whole whiteboard of ideas in my office. And if you guys want to see some of those ideas come off the whiteboard and into the garage, one of the ways you can do that is to check out our merch store. I designed all these t-shirts myself. I tried to design them so that they'd be things that people just wanted to wear because they liked them, not just because they wanted to be nice and help the channel. So if you want to check those out, those are there. Or else, if you want to support the channel, you can also do the standard things of hitting like and subscribe. Drop a little note in the comments. But for now, I'm gonna wait for these parts to show up, and for you guys, they'll be here like that. Nice. All right, today's the day. I'm gonna try and get this lower unit off and get to sealing it up so it stops puking on the floor. So much water in here, these seals are definitely bad. There we go. Should be a thrust washer. Okay. And then maybe 2 thrust washers? Nope. And this should slide right off. Hey. That is one oily, gross prop. Glad that didn't strip on me. Just curious. I expected this to pour out all black and nasty like the oil that was coming out from the prop, but it's running out perfectly clean. So not entirely sure what that means. Now these 2 bolts are what we're taking off next, and then there's 2 more on the other side.
Alright, let's take them off and get this lower unit dropped. So we got 14 millimeter up there we're going to need extension for. And actually I need a 14.
Alright. Cool. So this here's the shift linkage. This here's the water pump. And it is covered in watery oil grease. Kind of dealing with a combination battle of everything's super slippery and greasy, and some things are stuck. I've been working on trying to pop this prop shaft out of the housing. I had this little washer on here and a couple of nuts, tried to tap it out with a hammer, but that wasn't really working. From what I saw online, most people use a slide hammer, which I do have, but I didn't have anything that could thread onto this and thread onto here, so I ran to the hardware store, grabbed some nuts, all of $3. So I'm going to be able to weld these nuts together and make a thread adapter that'll thread onto this end, and I can thread the slide hammer in and hopefully tap this whole thing out and keep going and keep going and keep going. I get as much of the threads actually on here as I can. I don't accidentally pull the threads off, because if I do that, I might as well scrap the whole motor. Just like that. Alright, now it's puking oil everywhere. Cool! So, when I got this broke loose, I disconnect that pipe down there. So there's a nut down here on the bottom of this drive shaft that holds it in place. Just put like a 12 millimeter wrench on it. And then I put some vice grips up here on the shaft. I grabbed it here in the middle where there's no seals that need to seal, just in case it gets a little scratched up. It got a little scratches, but it's fine. Doesn't matter. I actually need this. Once you crack the nut loose, you just spin this until the nut comes off. There it is. Hope this is that. There we go. Okay. Plopped out the pinion, thrust washer, and a bearing. I'm gonna have to make sure I look at the parts diagram so I remember which way that goes on. And here's the second seal. Alright. Look at all that corrosion. Crusty on there. Now what's interesting is this looks like it's sheared off. There it is. Had to look at the diagram, and then I went and grabbed this piece, and sure enough, this broken part was a part of this plate that was really not wanting to let go. This is the bearing housing. It was probably just really stuck inside of the lower unit casing here, and it finally came out because this broke. So we're officially about to blow that $150 budget, but unfortunately, if I don't replace this bearing housing, this motor's not going to be working anymore. So, just got to do it. Well, it took a while to get here, but this should be our fresh, new bearing housing. Ooh. There we go. And this also just showed up. A new impeller for the water pump. It's just one of those things, while you're in there, might as well do it. The old one was looking a little bit goofy, a little bit worn and kind of squidgy. The new one's nice and straight, so it's cheap enough. It is interesting though that it has no Yamaha branding on it, but it does say it's OEM, and I definitely trust that. I've got all the parts, hopefully, that I need, and everything's kind of exploded out on the bench there. I tried to be organized, but now it's going to be a tedious process of cleaning and degreasing and prepping gasket surfaces, replacing things, and hopefully remembering how it all came out. So I'm going to throw the time lapse on and spare you guys the tediousness of probably the next several hours of my life. Got some new seals pressed in, new O-ring on this piece. Hopefully I'm reassembling this whole lower shaft correctly. It's about time to get it put back together here. Oh no. Completely forgot about this thing. That belongs somewhere in there. I might call it the end of this episode. I tentatively have this put all back together. It seems to go in and out of gear and neutral. A couple little things to button up. I don't see any missing parts, but there is some more components down here in the bottom of the motor that I have new seals for and stuff, so I'll probably tackle that on the next episode and hopefully get this thing back together and ready to post for a trade or sale so we can get me into a new project car. So stay tuned for that. I'm excited to have a new project to work on, and I'm excited to hopefully see this thing no longer in here anymore, especially now. So catch you guys on the next one.